Hello, everybody. Welcome to Choice, Change, and Action. I am Simone Milasas, your host, and this is your little overview. I wrote all these little post-it notes during this amazing podcast with Jeni Be, and I think we could have spoken about many different avenues of relationship, basically. We spoke about when love turns to hate and what do you choose? It's like the projections and expectations that people have of you have of others, and how do you choose with that? We spoke about the amazing, beautiful relationship that you can have with the earth. And, when when you get labeled, you are labeled with something. Surprisingly, I didn't know that Jeni actually had MS, and she talks about that as well, and how, for a long time she was sort of labeled the MS person, and, couldn't walk that well. She was on crutches, etc. Like, what story are you living by? And one of my favorites is that, we so often try and create ourselves to be normal. Stop trying to be normal. You are not normal. You're different. What is normal? There is no normal. Like breaking news, there is no normal. Okay. So, anyway, I hope you enjoy this podcast. There's a bunch of tools in there, access consciousness tools that you can use with relationships, with yourself, etc. Like a million. And I'd also really like to invite you to my Relationship Done Different class, which starts in a week or two. I think about 2 weeks, or 1 week actually, by the time this goes out. In about 1 week, it starts. It's online only, Relationships Done Different. And it's your relationship with you, with others, your lover, husband, wife, parents, kids, your friends, your colleagues, your body. It's your relationship with everything and everyone. It's a hell of a lot broader than what you think it is. So, anyway, enjoy this podcast, and maybe I'll see you somewhere in the world soon. Maybe you'll come on the Relationship Done Different class. Whatever you choose, choose for you.
Welcome to the Choice, Change, and Action podcast, where you get to choose, change, and take action to create a different today and a different future.
So, hi, everybody. Welcome to Choice, Change, and Action. So, you are with me, your host, Simone Milasas, and I am in cold, wet Queensland, Australia, in Bridgeon Beach, what I often refer to as home. And I am here today with Jeni Be, and where are you based?
I'm in Scotland, in north of Scotland, with lots of trees. And although it's summer here, it's still only 10 degrees. So,
Wow. Okay, so it's 10 degrees for you and it's summer, and we're bitching and complaining about the cold, and it's 19 degrees here right now in
there
Bridgeon
you
Beach.
go.
And we're like, it's cold. I've got the heater on. So there you go. Perspective, ladies and gentlemen, perspective,
Exactly.
which actually might be a good intro into this. So Jeni Be is a facilitator of Access Consciousness and has been working with Access for quite some time now. Actually, let me ask you first question. How did you come across Access?
I came across Access in 2013. I had my first bars run then, and then did a bars class, and within 2 weeks chose to go to foundation and a body class, because to me that's where I really wanted to go, was body class. Foundation, nah, I don't really need that, but body class, yeah. And then of course, the foundation class just opened up something I had no idea that I required.
Yeah.
Whole load of
Isn't it funny when
information.
that happened? Like when I was talking the other day to someone, and when I came along, I was so intrigued with the processing, like the clearing statement, and just asking a question and running a process. I was so intrigued with that, and just the conversation. I was like, "What about this? What about this? What about this?" And then someone would go, "Oh, maybe you should get your bars run, like lie down on the table." And I was like, "No, no, 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 no. Like, no, no, no. I don't have time for that. I need to talk about this more. I need to look at this more. The I don't know, me philosophizing about everything and thinking about it. I'd be like, I distinctly remember all the time I'd listen to Gary and I go, okay, I'm going to go away and think about that. And I would say that out loud. I'm going to go away and think about that. And I think about it and I'd be like, okay. It wasn't necessarily weighing pros and cons, but I was like, wow, what a different concept. And everything that we spoke about so resonated with myself. And there's definitely been topics in Access that I have avoided or resisted, etc. And one of those topics I find a lot of people resist is relationships, like using the Access consciousness tools in relationships. I cannot tell you how, like, one of the classes that we facilitate is relationships done different. So many people have these as the excuses to not go. One is, oh, well, I'm not looking for a relationship, so I don't need that, right? Which indicates that
Mhm.
they think relationships done different is only about finding the one. It is so not about finding the one. Well, it sort of is, because it's about being one with you, being in communion with you as well, and so many different aspects. And the second thing I see is a lot of people who are in a relationship don't really want to make that leap and start using the access consciousness tools in relationship, because they've already decided and concluded that that means the relationship is over. And it doesn't have to be that. The relationship doesn't have to be over. It can change. And my last long-term relationship was 8 years, and I really know that the only reason we were together for 8 years is because we used the access consciousness tools. And we wrote a book about it. It's called Relationship. Are you sure you want one? So it's a question, and it's with Brendan Watt. We co-authored this book, and then as we released it in America, we had all these like TV shows set up and everything, and we broke up. And our PR agent was like freaking out and going, "Oh my God, what are we going to do?" And I was like, "It's okay, we've got this," because our point of view is not about relationship is the right choice and you have to be in one. It literally, like the name of the book, relationship, are you sure you want one? And we desired to put people into question. And a lot of the tools that we spoke about in the book is what we used for 8 years. We used those tools to actually create our relationship. There's tools in that book that you can use to like change your relationship, like pivot a little bit. It's or if you do desire to break up, it doesn't have to be this like drama and this Dios mio sort of thing, and like, oh my God, now this, I hate him or I hate her. No, it doesn't have to be that either. It can be actually ease, joy, and glory. And the mantra of access is all of life comes to us with ease, joy, and glory. So you left me a message the other day, Jeni, and it was in regards to relationships done different. And the energy that you just went and downloaded me with, I went, ooh. I went, do you want to do a podcast with me? Because I see that so much of your choices and your life over the years has changed so much with you using the access consciousness tools. So let's talk about your like relationships. And I know there's a few because you have relationship with your husband. You've been married for how long?
20 years, been together 24.
So been together 24 and married for 20 years. So walk me through like what that's been like for you, and you know, sort of any sort of hiccups that you've come across, like those hurdles that you've come across, and what tools you've engaged with in order to create some change. I like the way she's got a big smile. She's like, how long is the podcast?
Exactly. We've had one of those relationships where it was like before I met Adam, I'd been married, he'd been married. So we'd had this already idea of what worked and what didn't. So when we came together, there was very much looking at like, let's just enjoy ourselves. Let's do something different here and just enjoy our lives. So I'd been married, long-term relationship with someone else, couldn't get pregnant with any of those. And then suddenly Adam and I are 3 months going out with each other, and by accident, totally by accident, pregnant. So there we go.
I
I'm
like the way
down
you,
that
you clap your hands. Pregnant together.
boom. So from there, we had to make a choice, what we're going to
Yeah.
do. And then the morals come in, does he stay with me? Does he not? So we set up a life together. We actually lost that baby and went through another ectopic after that. So we had these plans of what our future would be like. And then suddenly that was gone. So we set up and did IVF. So there's this real choice, to go down a certain line, and having someone go with you with that choice was just amazing. So he said, look, things change in your life. Let's look at what comes up depression wise. How can we work with that? He was very open and very loving and very supportive. And then I get diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and things sort of went, in his words, tits up, basically. Because then he had to look after me, and suddenly this relationship where, You know, I'm working in a hospital as a psychotherapist and he's working in a big company. Suddenly my role went into like just being like a baby and needing care, and he had to choose something else. So the balance tipped with us then, and what I went into was like
How long
feeling
ago was that?
2004, so 20
Okay.
years. So literally we've been together for 3 or 4 years with that. And so the balance tipped with that, and very much there was this me striving for something else in my life, and him saying, no, keep yourself down. So the fight was already in me to try and get over this, to get through this. And he was already beginning to say, look, you're pushing yourself too much, you'll end up in relapse, blah, blah, blah. So there was this control element going on that also in my childhood, there was something similar. So that's how our relationship then started going off the rails, I would say. So
Mhm.
here I am trying to work with something, and here he is telling me how I should be. There's no question in his world at all. There's only projection and expectation. And knowing that if he went to work and left me in one place, a carer would come in and look after me at that point because I was literally disabled,
Mm.
and I would still be there. So there was a real control element for him, knowing that he could do whatever he wanted to. This is in my head. But for me, I was sort of left on my own and striving to get over something that didn't really work. So that
You know,
carried on. Go on.
can I just stop you there for a second too? Because it's interesting. Weirdly, I was watching a show last night about it's called NDIS, like the program that we have for people who are disabled. And at the moment, it's like, I don't know, it's like $42 billion or something that it's costing big for everything. But the one thing that they were talking about, which I really got, was, people sort of seem to, if you're in a wheelchair or, quote unquote disabled, like something's going on, they dismiss the person as though the intelligence and the being is not there.
Yeah.
And it's like, the being is there. The being is just going, hey, I can't move my arms or my legs, or I can't do this, but I am very much here and I'm very much present. Please don't treat me as a lesser being.
Yeah.
And I really noticed that yesterday. And so did that, I mean, this is not where I thought we were going, but this is, did that show up for you? Like, is that what you felt like?
Thank you.
Or,
Yeah.
yeah,
Because at one point there was that much medication in my system that for me, the only way to get through the day was actually to take more medication. So I would numb myself, then numb myself more. And at one point, it's just like, here I am at, 43 years old. What the fuck, am I doing
yeah.
in my life? Do I really want to be here? And sorry for swearing.
No, you can,
But really,
that's
it was that. It was that. It was like, what do I want to be here? So, and I turned around to him and I said, look, Adam, I'm so unhappy here. And he says, but I'm fine. He didn't want to know. He couldn't go there with the vulnerability. And so for me, I had to look at what do I require here. And that's when I asked my question here. Look, there must be something here that can support me. I'd been a psychotherapist, used all the CBT, the Gestalt, the every single modality I'd ever been trained in had not worked. And then suddenly bars showed up and I went, wow, I've got a space in my world that has never ever been there before. What is this? And so I chose bars. And then even when I went for my bars class, I'm in 2 walking sticks. And I said to the girl, like, I don't know if I can stay here all day. Like, I'm literally, she says, well, you're going to be lying in the bed for some of it. You're going to be gifting and receiving. Let's just see how it goes. And I did. I stayed all day. And then my world changed with using not just bars, but the questions that opened up different possibilities with access is so unique and so different. Because all my life, people had told me things, and I'd had to fight to get over that point of view, or like try and, like with Adam, to try and tell him what was going on for me. He didn't want to hear. So, how do you work and communicate with someone when they do not want to hear you? In truth, does it matter?
Well, it's interesting that like, okay, one part I just want to ping out too, because if you're listening to this and anything here is familiar with the energetics of it, I was even talking to someone today and how, like, the way you spoke about that is, how often do we push against, like, it has this sense that we are pushing against something in order to have ourselves.
Yes.
And in truth, what we're pushing against is we're pushing against this normal reality. And everybody's like, well, you should do normal. You should be normal. Like, I was just talking to someone today, spent like, I don't know, 30 minutes talking to them. And they were like in victim mode. Oh my God, my life is a piece of shit. This is da 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 da. And I went, have you ever acknowledged that you're a single mom and that you brought up your kids and you did that all on your own? And we had this whole conversation about it. By the time she left my house, she was like, wow, she said, I feel good. I feel like me. And I was like, that's you. And I was like, but it's so, it's not easy to play the victim, but we play the victim because that's what everybody expects of us. And that's the normal box. Like, that's the box you can sit in and go, oh, well, see, I'm a victim. Oh, see, I've got MS. Oh, see, I'm a single mom of 2 kids and I don't have financial support and blah, blah, blah. Like, whatever story it is that you're, telling. And I know I say that and people are like, you're an asshole, Simone. You don't know my story. No, I don't know everybody's story. But what if it is a story? And I was saying to this person today, if you didn't have that story, you didn't have that, that image, that personality that you've created with this story that goes with it, what have you
Mhm.
got? And it's like, you've got this being. And for me, it's like, wow, if we could wake up every day and be us, no matter what it takes, no matter what it looks like, what else would we invite into our lives? Like, what gratitude could we have for every choice we made? And I said to her, okay, from now on, every time you go to what you don't have, I want you to have a look at what you do have. Like, instead of going, I don't have money, okay, I've got $10. Like, it's that mindset that when you start to choose something different, and I can see, Jeni, how you were so attempting to choose something different and be something different. It's almost like, that tale of when the jumping fleas are in the glass box and they're
Yeah.
jumping to the lid, right? And it's like, but then you've got these people around you who are, are the people who, I guess, care about you. And that's a whole other topic about how a lot of people do caring from judgment, sort of
Mhm.
like with their arms over the top of you going, no, 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 you stay here because this is your spot. And you're going, no, no, I want to punch the hell out of here. This
Yeah.
is not me. I am something bigger and something greater and something more than this. So how did that show up, Jeni?
Well, we
What?
had this conversation totally like he says, well, what is it you want to do? I says, well, at the moment I'm on 2 sticks and here I am, but I can sit in a bike. Can we get an electric bike? So we got an electric bike. So here, me, I used to ski, I used to mountain bike, I used to sail. Like all of that was the joy for me with him. So this is things we did together. So suddenly I started going out on the bike, and yes, I was more wobbly, but whatever. So I had this totally electric bike. There was no e-bike with it. It went on its own. And that began to give me the joy of my life back. So there was a flavor of like, a possibility of something different showing up that enthused me in my body. And then again, like is exactly as you said, like what is the joy here of every day? Yes, I'm fatigued, yes, whatever. But I had 2 amazing dogs that I would take out every single day. It took me all my time to get them in the car. I would take them a walk in the forest, and just being with them in the forest, seeing birds, seeing animals, deer or whatever, that lit up my world. Um, the forest, the beach, the trees, the earth, everything sang to me more and more. And this is where the feeding didn't come from people, it came from the animals or the world around me. And then I realized a lot of what was going on in my head was not only the projections from others that I should be disabled, I should only do this, blah, 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 blah. But other people that were in, like even the MS group I was in, like they were going downhill
Mm,
and going into electric wheelchairs. And here I am on an electric bike saying, this ain't stopping me. Like,
yeah.
so the label is something I wanted to talk about as well, because when you label yourself or the relationship, then you're kind of stuck in this like good or bad, in or out of something, where you're either part of that or you're not, and it begins like this separation. And at one point in our lives, like Adam and I were in this sort of struggle where, you know, should I stay or should I go? Like the Clash song always sings in my head, you know.
Gotta stay. I go now.
Yeah, exactly. So that kept coming up, and I thought, well, what is that? And that itself is a story, exactly what you said earlier on. That itself is a story that you're either in or out, or with or not. So what is underneath all of that? What is going on here that is my life's gone this way, his life's gone this way? Do we still want to choose to be together and create something, or are we going to go our separate ways? And not from, exactly as you said earlier on, not from like, this doesn't work, but more like, what is it that we actually require in our worlds to create something that moves us forward, either in our own lives or together? What do we actually require here?
So how did you like what came next then? Sort of like how did you get more involved in Access, or what tools did you use? Like, because I didn't see you with two sticks now.
No.
So what happened? Ta-da!
Ta-da! I kept choosing. I went to body class, and body class changed my world. Totally and
Wow.
utterly. Body class changed everything for me. And one of the processes there was just amazing for me, and I ran it every day, including there's another one called the thymus exercise. So MTVSS and the thymus exercise, were also given in foundation. Changed my world. There was something about allowing my body to come out of whatever, um, when you're diagnosed with something, you given a label that you wear. So it's like a bodysuit. I'm wearing MS, thinking that they know best about me and my body. And with the Access tools, I began to say, okay, the medical profession actually don't know best here. I know what's best here for my body. How can I choose more of what my body requires, and in what way can I work with that? And in actual fact, the same with my relationship. You know, I kept choosing Access and going in this direction. And it was like setting sail with an anchor on. He would keep pulling back and didn't want to talk about Access, didn't want to talk about my business. And at one point, we were so separate. He said, look, I'm going to sell the motorhome we have, because we've always traveled and done things around the earth, you know, like we'd sail or we'd go snorkeling, even in Scotland with wetsuits on and stuff, but mountain biking or whatever. So he says, I'm going to sell the motorhome. We need another one. And I says, look, I'd rather travel around the world and go with you exploring around the world than just stay in Scotland. It's bloody cold a lot of the time. And he says, no, I need this. And so there was this choice, like, you know, does he have this motorhome just for him, like 40 grand's worth of a vehicle? And what do I choose here? And I went, yeah, why not? So allowing him that choice, and him allowing me to go and travel and do whatever Access classes I wanted to, as long as I made enough money to create that, to pay for it, he was fine. So we had our own lives. He went away. We called it his Batmobile. You know, it's the boys' bat cave, but it's on wheels. So he went away and did a whole lot of stuff with guys and his friends. They would go away traveling together and do boys' things, get drunk, whatever, barbecues a lot. And I did my Access things. And then at one point, we hit a wall where we just couldn't talk. And there was no communication. There was a lot of underlying anger. It's a bit where, you know, when love turns to hate, it was on that level where you didn't know what was going on here. And I started asking them, look, can we look at this? There's something not right here. And then for him, he had to tell me every single thing that was wrong with me. He had to tell me what was wrong with my family, what was wrong with my life, how good his family was, how good and perfect he'd got his life. And then with that whole download, like I either had to, and this is what I chose, was like, well, wait a minute, I've got to fight for the right to be me here. And exactly what we're talking about earlier on, like where we have to fight to get our point of view across so they hear it, so they can receive it, instead of just choosing it for me and allowing that to be a greater space. And I would say it took me 7 years and it still comes up when when he says something that triggers me, it's like, what is it that's actually going on here? Is it that story? Is it what he's saying? Or what is the beautiful energy underneath that actually requires more presence with me, that's got nothing whatsoever to do with what he's saying? Um, and for some of that, it could be like what's going on in his life, with work, with his family illness, and what he's struggling with, that he'll project onto me to try and get rid of the whatever's in his world, so he feels freer. And I'm like that. Well, what do I do with that? Do I take that on the chin, or what is it that I can ask so I can be present with all of that and not take it personally, which is what I used to do.
So can I just say, this whole scenario is so similar. Like, so many people have a very similar sort of story. I mean, it's,
Totally.
different setting, different country, maybe the weather's different. But it's like, different background. And so much of this I see is that people choose conflict, and they choose to fight, and they choose to resist and react. And like you said, it's like when love turns to hate, which for me is always interesting, because you chose to be with this person, and now it's like there's this anger or this hatred or this frustration within it, because it didn't show up the way you thought it should, basically. And this is such a cool topic for a relationship done different class as well, because there's so many things to break down with that and have a look at it. And one of the first things I would say is, which we briefly mentioned when you said, being an allowance of him, buying the mobile home and going off, and him being an allowance of you going to access classes, etc. So basically being an allowance of your choices.
Yeah.
That's such a beautiful tool to use with two people, is being an allowance. Because for me, it's like, it's you and your body here. And yeah, you may choose to be with someone and they're a contribution, but you don't own them. You can't control them. It's like, if you are an allowance of them and they're an allowance of you, oh my goodness, what can be generated from that is so much bigger and so much greater than trying to control someone. And I'm going to mention a tool here that, if you're listening to this, you may listen and go, what did she just say? I'm going to say it twice for you, because you're not going to get it the first time. It Care about what you don't care about, and don't care about what you care about. Okay. So I'm going to say it again. So Jeni, if you look at, and I know that you've done relationship, done different classes, and you've done a lot of access classes, you're a facilitator. But if you look at this energy of, something that he's talking about or addressing, okay, and it's like, if he cares about it, right? So, but you don't really care about it. It's like, care about what you don't care about, and don't care about what you care about. And so many people go, oh well, I wish that two of us together would just be like, "Mwah," and everything's on the same page. It's not. That is one of the biggest lies of relationship ever in the world. You are two infinite beings. You choose different things. You choose a different thing from today, from tomorrow, from next week, from next month, from next year. But what if you could have that allowance with each other, and that vulnerability with each other, to say, hey, you know what? You do you and I'll do me. And then when we come together to play, to cook, to hang out, to go to the woods, or whatever it is that you're choosing, watching a movie, whatever, when you come together to be with that, there is more of a contribution, because you are so in allowance of the other person choosing whatever works for them, and you're choosing whatever works for you. That is one of the greatest tools, and one of the things I see so many people just don't choose. They usually, there's one person who always wants to control the other person or be right.
Yes.
And Gary Douglas, the founder of Access Consciousness, said many, many, many years ago, most people would rather be right than be free. And it is so true.
Yeah.
So if you're not fighting something, and you're not going into the conflict, then what other choice do you have available? Profit is how much living you can create when you are willing to create a bigger life. Please join my latest and very low-cost membership with me, Simone Milasas, at the Profit Club. SimoneMilasas.com/Profit Club. So what tools did you use, Jeni?
Well,
Because I see you on a much brighter side now too.
you see, sorry?
You're on a much you're on a brighter side. Like, you're sort of coming up, like you said, it took 7 years to sort of
Yeah.
have a look at this. And it's like, yeah, it does take time. It's a friggin' marathon. It's not a sprint. It doesn't happen overnight. It's like, you got to use the tools.
the first one is destroying and create my relationship every day, and I can do that 1,000 times. So making sure there's like what else is possible here, never considered that question as well.
So
Um,
let's talk, can we just break that down for people who haven't
yes.
heard that tool? Can you just break down what is that? Destroying and uncreate. They're like, what? You break up with him every day?
Yeah, break up with them every day and let go of everything. So for me, it's like whatever figments of my imagination I've created him as, of letting go all of that. So like every facet of his diamond, so to speak, and allowing the being to be there. Like if we were destroying and creating a relationship, then what else can show up? Because it gives me the true being to come out, him the true being to come out, and then there's an engagement between us that's beyond anything we've ever, any story or any point of view we've ever been before.
Expectation or anything. And
Yeah,
we the people who are closest to us, we tend to have more expectations and projections of them. And as you have these projections and expectations of someone, this if they're not meeting your desired projection and expectation, sometimes it's verbal and sometimes it's
yeah,
just energetic. It starts to create, as Jenny mentioned before, it starts to create this separation. So then before you know it, you're at either end of the scale sort of thing, and you're like, what the hell's going on? Which also creates this, like, it creates the judgment, and it creates the rejection of your very being and their very being. So, as Jenny's saying, this could be with your husband, your wife, your lover, your kids. I would highly recommend with your kids, your best mates. Do it with your friends. It's like your colleagues. So right now, here's what the way that you would use this tool is: you just like get someone in your head and go, okay, I destroy and like I'll do it with Jenny. I destroy and uncreate my relationship with Jenny today. And everything that that is, times a godzillion, right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD, all nine shorts, boys, perverts, and beyonds. That's the Access Consciousness Clearing Statement. You can find out more about it at theclearingstatement.com. And don't forget, everything is in the subscription notes. So don't forget to subscribe. But here's the thing, I've known Jenny for a really long time, right? And I have never done that with her. And I just noticed, even when I did that, there's an energy there. And it's
yeah,
like, I wouldn't cognitively know. It's be like, oh, I think Jenny should always, it's not something I'm thinking about, but there's an energy there. So when I destroy and uncreate my relationship with Jenny, it allows something different to show up. It allows something more to show up. It allows for her to be more. It allows for me to be more. It allows for us to hear each other more, to like
yeah,
hear those whispers and not assume something. So I don't always go like, if I had a thing and went, oh, Jenny always blah blah blah. Even if I don't say that loud, it's just something I'm thinking. That now becomes something that is heavy and solid. And when you
mhm,
destroy and create your relationship with someone, that goes away. So then I also allow the energy of when Jenny's changed and that shows up and I go, oh, Jenny's a different person today. It's like, it's so much fun to use that tool. It is one of my favorite tools.
it opens up a lot as
Mhm.
well. It stops the normality of what you think anything should be as well for me, like for
Yeah.
relationships. So when you get like that humdrum, just keep running that same destroying and create all relationships.
Yeah. Because
Um,
breaking news, there is no normal.
yes, there is
We
no
keep trying
normal.
to find normal, but there is no normal. Okay. You're different. Just claim, own, and acknowledge that you are different and your relationships can be different.
And even the word relationship, the word marriage, the word partner, the word couple, like all of that, destroying and create, or children, or like whatever. So all of those words as well.
I like
The
the word of lover.
I like lover too. Hello,
That's my lover.
lover.
Yeah. Hey, lover. And it's like, I mean, hello, that's pretty Captain Obvious what your job is. My lover, rather than like boyfriend. Even when you introduce someone, boyfriend, when you introduce a husband, like the whole
Yeah,
energy of it. And it's like what people go to, what they assume. It's like, wow, we are very strange creatures here on the planet, you know. We're the only
totally.
living creature on the planet that is just has a level of insanity that I will never understand, and I've given up trying to understand it because it doesn't do you any good to try and understand it. Just keep trying to, just keep choosing you, basically.
Yeah.
So your next tool, Jenny, that you would use.
Um, really acknowledging where where so like 50-50 in a relationship is where we actually create together 50-50 if one is less or more. But where I acknowledged when Adam was going through some of his stuff, he would go down to like 20%. And what I was aware of was I would try and fill the other 30%. So it would be 50-50. So I would overstretch myself and animate him or like try and be people pleasing. And I was like, who the hell am I being with this? Like, who does this belong to? So a few tools in there is acknowledging where I became like my mum, like very much that with how she was with my dad. And with that as well, acknowledging where I was trying to force Adam to respond to me and actually animate his world or like put more energy into his world to try and get a reaction, a good reaction, because it's perfect reaction. You have to get it right, you know. That's a sarcastic comment. Um, so acknowledging all of that, then there's 4 or 5 different things in there.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, because when you say, because, okay, that's a whole tool of like if you're, 50-50 in a relationship, it's like someone, as an example, it's like if you're 50-50, someone might be amazing at cooking, right? But the other person's not. Okay. So it doesn't mean that you've got this like scale that the other person might be really great at making money, but the other one is not as great or as quick or something. So it sort of like starts to even out. There's not one person who is more superior than the other. You may be superior in one area. You may be a better cook. You may be a better mother or father or something like that. And not better based on judgment, just like you find it easier or you have more space for it or whatever that is. So it's like it's not trying to get two people to do the same thing. It's acknowledging the capacities that somebody else has, acknowledging the capacities you have, and again using that word, not expecting somebody to do something or be something that they are not. Let them be them. Like really let them be them. And even, I mean, I'm a big believer in you need space. I mean, I always say man cave is a real thing. It's like, you know what? There's not one man I know that doesn't actually crave something that has their space, whether it's a spot they go to or playing video games all day or, something that's just for them. And I see so many females go to this thing of going, oh my God, what did I do? What did I do? Did I do something wrong? It's like, you didn't do anything wrong. They just require space. Now, in saying that, I think I'm more of a man than a woman with that because I do require space as well. And there's a lot of women out there who are the same. But acknowledge it. It's okay. It's okay to go, you know what? I'm going to sleep in the guest room tonight because I'm not that, I just want to, I want to starfish across the bed. I'm not actually desirous to sleep next to another body tonight. Like, what if nothing we chose in relationships was wrong because you were always choosing for what works for you and what works for you and the person that you are with so that you can have something greater, create something greater, actualize something greater is what I would love to invite people to.
That and also having your own bathroom each makes such a
Oh,
difference.
absolutely.
So for me,
Ab-
that's a joy. He's got his
Yeah,
toilet, his shower, I've got mine, no problem at all. So making that a priority really helped as well.
yeah,
And really taking anything he says not personally. So like
yes,
even the comment the other night is that, do you know what? I'd really wish you would do blah 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 in the dishwasher. And like I just said, oh, show me what is it that you would prefer. And just like honoring that part, which is part of the 5 elements of intimacy, really honoring that he would require this because it makes his world like that little bit easier. I would be exactly the same for other things. So why not honor him and what he requires too? It's not always about you, it's always about what can create greater here. And what creates
yeah.
greater is honor, yeah, being that with him. So
Playing with it. I'm going to mention these. I have these out. This is the intimate play. You've got these, don't you? I think.
yeah,
No?
I bought them. Yeah, we use them frequently and have some fun with them. Yeah.
Nice. So I was going to say, so they're called Intimate Play for Lovers, and I created these with a friend of mine, and they're very cool. The website, I don't know, by the time this goes out, Wes will freak out now. There's a section on there that just says coming soon for where you can get them, etc. We're getting there, right? But the whole idea of these is there's these, play cards, and there's like hard play and soft play, etc. But my suggestion is the next time he goes, hey, I really wish you could do this, blah, blah, blah. It's like, I've got a better idea. What if you pull a card?
Yeah.
I think that'll change the energy and he may empty the dishwasher.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
That's what
I
we
love
play it.
Yeah. So, Jeni, what is there anything else that you would like to gift the listeners of if they're listening to this and they're sort of like, oh, on struggle street or sort of not seeming to have that much ease with their relationship? Is there anything else that you would like to offer the listeners? Like maybe throw
Be
another call
kind.
in it.
Be kind
Yeah.
to yourself. It's not one choice. It's an ever expanding choice of possibilities that shows up. And then when you create one choice, keep going. What's next? What's next? And then there becomes a flavor where it is easier. And then sometimes there's a dip and it becomes like more difficult. And then sometimes there's a real peak and it's absolutely wondrous. Do not have a conclusion about what's right and what's wrong. Just keep asking what else is possible here. I've never considered, what is beyond relationship? What can we create together? All those questions really help. And I've actually got, oh, okay, go on.
No, I was just going to say that's really beautifully said.
I've got a quote from Gary Douglas about being right, which I love. And it says, if you lived from possibility instead of right and wrong, you'd never have anything to fix. You'd only have things to choose.
Yay. That's beautiful. I love that. And that's from Gary Douglas, the founder of Access Consciousness. That's awesome. Thank you. And we will have that quote in the show notes as well. So, Jeni, thank you so much for being here. We could talk all night about different aspects of relationships. Yeah, because there are so many different. I mean, we just happen to be talking about you and your partner, your husband, and that sort of aspect of relationship. But we have relationships with everything. We have like, what's your relationship with the earth? It's like, I loved when you were talking about that as well. Like, yeah, I know. It's like, so if you can't see, Jenny's just like giving us her body a little hug now. So, and if you don't know, we're on YouTube as well. So you can swing on over to YouTube and you can watch us and listen to us at the same time. But it's a relationship that you have with money, with your business, with your body, with everything. And the way you just described that, you could put anything in there. Like if you're going, okay, this is your relationship with you, that's like your kids, your parents, your friends, your business, your everything. Like life is not linear.
No.
It's chaos and it's malleable. And if you let it be chaos and you let it be malleable, there is something so much greater and bigger and more awesome available with all of that. So I invite you to that. So thank you, Jeni, so much for being on here. It's been an absolute pleasure.
I've really enjoyed it. Thanks for inviting me.
Me too. So thanks, everyone. And don't forget to subscribe. Tell all your friends, family, foe, whoever you desire. And, write us a little review if you can. That would be absolutely fabulous. I would be very grateful. And don't forget, you can check out Intimate Play for Lovers cards. It's on intimateplaycards.com at the moment. So more coming soon. All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please make sure to hit the follow or subscribe button on your favorite listening platform to get notified of new episodes. We read all the reviews, so if there's any topic you would like to hear about, let us know. If you'd like to know more about the tools, information, and classes mentioned in the podcast, head on over to SimoneMilasas.com and follow me on Instagram at Simone Milasas, or the podcast has its very own link on Instagram at Choice, Change and Action. Don't forget, you can download the show notes. And lastly, have way too much fun today.